On the morning of August 9th, 33-year-old Shayla Gutierrez appeared on a video call with her mother, Helga, in Peru. The call began with familiar warmth. On screen, Shayla sat with her 3 children while her husband, Josemar, moved in and out of the frame. To an outsider, it seemed like a normal family moment. Yet beneath the surface, tension lingered. During the call, Shayla leaned closer to her mother and revealed what she truly intended for the day. She explained that she would take her children to the park, buy them something to eat, and then leave them with a trusted friend. Once the children were safe, she planned to go directly to the police. Shayla was determined to report the abuse she had endured, something she and her mother had quietly discussed the night before. Helga was concerned for her daughter's safety, but recognized Shayla's determination. Her last words were simple: "Promise me you'll call later." That promise would never be fulfilled. As hours passed without contact, Helga's unease grew. By the next morning, her worry turned to alarm. Calls and messages went unanswered, leaving only silence. Helga reached out to Josemar, hoping for reassurance. Instead, he responded with explanations that quickly unraveled. First, he claimed Shayla had been taken by immigration officers because of her undocumented status. Helga doubted the story immediately. Offices were closed on Sundays, and Shayla already had a scheduled appointment. When challenged, Josemar altered his account. This time, he claimed Shayla had left him for another man. Friends and relatives dismissed the idea instantly, knowing she would never abandon her children without warning. Finally, he suggested she had been in an accident, offering no detail and no clarity. Each shifting version deepened suspicion. Those closest to Shayla recalled Josemar's violent history, and their growing fear became certainty. Shayla had not gone to the police, and she had not reached out. By now it was undeniable. She was missing, and every indication pointed to something far more sinister. Shayla Gutierrez had hoped for a better life when she left Peru in 2023 with her husband, Josemar, and their 3 children. At just 26 years old, she carried dreams of stability and safety, believing that moving to California would open the door to new opportunities. Yet the reality she encountered was far from what she imagined. The abuse she had endured in Peru did not end with relocation. Instead, it followed her across borders, becoming an unrelenting pattern of control and violence. Back in Peru, Shayla had already taken steps to protect herself. She filed police reports and sought official help more than once, with relatives often accompanying her to the station after violent incidents. Her family remembered these attempts clearly, yet no meaningful intervention ever occurred. By the time she reached the United States, she was already familiar with disappointment from authorities and with a cycle of abuse that never seemed to break. Neighbors in California began noticing the atmosphere inside the household. While Shayla greeted others kindly, Josemar was often described as withdrawn, angry, or perpetually tense. His behavior created unease in the community, but the true weight of his temper was carried inside the home. Even the children were affected, reportedly fearful of their father's anger and unpredictable moods. Shayla confided to her mother that Josemar not only mistreated her, but had also hit their youngest child, a 3-year-old. On the evening before her disappearance, Shayla spoke candidly during a video call with her mother. She admitted she could no longer endure the abuse. Helga, worried but supportive, confronted Josemar directly, urging him to change for the sake of his family. His response was silence and a warning to Shayla not to report him. Shayla, however, was resolute. Her words carried a finality that signaled she was ready to take the step she had postponed for years. By August 12th, the concern surrounding Shayla Gutierrez had shifted into undeniable panic. Days had passed since her last communication, and her absence was completely out of character. Shayla was known for staying in constant touch with her mother, Helga, calling nearly every day without fail. Now, there was only silence. Her family and friends began exhausting every possible option, reaching out to hospitals, speaking with neighbors, and checking places she might have visited. No trace of her appeared, and unease grew heavier with each passing hour. The situation became even more alarming when it was discovered that Josemar and the children were also missing. Calls to him went unanswered, and messages received no reply. It seemed as if the entire family had disappeared overnight. This development prompted Shayla's loved ones to seek official help, and soon both she and the children were reported missing to California authorities. When deputies arrived at the couple's apartment complex, their investigation immediately uncovered signs that something violent had occurred. Just outside the condominium door, officers spotted what appeared to be bloodstains on the ground. The evidence pointed strongly toward a struggle, dispelling any possibility that Shayla had simply walked away from her life. Investigators began reviewing surveillance footage from the area, and what they found was disturbing. A neighbor's camera captured Josemar late at night, dragging a large object wrapped tightly in fabric across the courtyard. The bundle appeared heavy, requiring effort to move, and its shape raised chilling questions about what was inside. The same camera later recorded Josemar again, this time accompanied by the couple's 3 children. Each child carried bags and suitcases, suggesting a hurried departure rather than an ordinary outing. Their exit looked permanent. Neighbors also admitted to hearing screams and loud banging from the unit around the time Shayla disappeared, though they had chosen not to intervene. That silence weighed heavily afterward. From these developments, the case shifted dramatically. Shayla's disappearance no longer looked like a mystery involving immigration or family conflict. It now bore the unmistakable signs of violence, with evidence pointing directly toward Josemar's involvement. Following the alarming evidence from the apartment complex, the investigation turned toward locating Shayla Gutierrez. A critical breakthrough arrived when law enforcement received a tip directing them to Angeles National Forest. Known for its rugged terrain, steep embankments, and dense vegetation, the area was often used to conceal evidence, and investigators prepared for a difficult search. Teams from Montrose Mountain Search and Rescue joined deputies in combing through the forest. The effort was exhaustive, with personnel methodically covering ground and navigating treacherous slopes. Hours of searching passed, each minute carrying the weight of expectation and dread. Then, around 10 o'clock in the morning, searchers spotted something unusual at the bottom of an embankment. What they found was a large bundle wrapped in fabric, eerily similar to material seen in the surveillance footage of Josemar dragging an object across the courtyard. The discovery instantly drew a connection to the earlier video, reinforcing suspicions that the package might contain evidence of Shayla's fate. When the bundle was carefully unwrapped, the searchers' fears were confirmed. Inside was Shayla's body. Authorities initially withheld public details, but the Ministry of Women and Vulnerable Populations in Peru soon revealed the extent of her injuries. Shayla had sustained multiple stab wounds to the front and back of her body. Her death was not an accident, nor was it consistent with any of the shifting explanations Josemar had provided. It was deliberate, violent homicide. The discovery devastated her family. For days, they had clung to the fragile hope that she might still be alive somewhere. Now, that hope collapsed completely. Helga, her mother, spoke through overwhelming grief, expressing both sorrow and determination to seek justice. The community of Lancaster, California, also responded with sorrow and outrage. Neighbors and friends gathered for a vigil at City Hall, holding candles and handmade signs bearing Shayla's name. They remembered her as a devoted mother, a kind neighbor, and a loyal friend. Their calls echoed the family's demand, justice for Shayla. After the discovery of Shayla Gutierrez's body in Angeles National Forest, investigators turned their attention fully toward Josemar, who had become the central figure in the case. Evidence already tied him to suspicious activity: the bloodstains at the apartment, the disturbing surveillance footage, and his disappearance with the children. Soon, it was confirmed that Josemar had fled the United States. He crossed international borders and returned to his native Peru, taking the 3 children with him. The development created immediate concern for the children's safety. Authorities in Peru intervened, and the minors were placed into protective custody. Eventually, they were transferred to their maternal grandmother, Helga. The handover was deeply emotional, with video footage capturing the children crying and resisting as they were separated from their father. The moment highlighted both the trauma they had endured and the difficult process of ensuring their protection. Meanwhile, Shayla's family pleaded with Josemar's relatives for information on his whereabouts. Their requests were met with silence. Relatives refused to disclose his location, leaving the family in anguish. This lack of cooperation compounded the grief and frustration already felt after Shayla's death. Public outrage grew once it became clear that Josemar was not immediately arrested. Authorities in Peru stated that no active international warrant was in place at the time, preventing them from detaining him despite the mounting evidence and the international attention surrounding the case. The revelation provoked disbelief and anger in both California and Peru. How could a man seen dragging a large bundle on surveillance, later linked to his wife's death, remain free? The intense public scrutiny eventually led to a shift. Days later, Josemar turned himself in to Interpol. His demeanor drew further criticism, as he displayed little acknowledgement of the severity of the accusations against him. He gave no confession, no explanation, and no recognition of responsibility. Instead, his only statement was that he would comply with the legal process. Josemar now sat in custody, but the case was far from over. Extradition to the United States became the next critical step, requiring coordination between Peruvian authorities and Los Angeles prosecutors. For Shayla's family, justice remained elusive. Their grief was deepened by the knowledge that even with overwhelming evidence, the man they held responsible had not yet faced trial for her death. The death of Shayla Gutierrez left a deep scar on her family and community. In Lancaster, California, neighbors and friends gathered outside City Hall to honor her memory. They lit candles, carried handmade signs demanding justice, and spoke about the kind, hard-working woman they had known. For many, the vigil served not only as a tribute, but also as a collective outcry against violence that had stolen yet another life. In Peru, the grief was just as profound. Relatives and neighbors organized a mass in Lima, filling the church with candles, flowers, and shirts printed with Shayla's photo. Her mother, Helga, stood among the mourners, devastated yet determined, publicly calling for justice. Her sister described the killing as femicide, insisting that Shayla's children could not grow up under the care of their mother's murderer. These gatherings reflected the depth of loss, while underscoring the determination to ensure accountability. The case also sparked outrage on a broader scale. Reports revealed that in the days before her disappearance, Shayla had told friends Josemar was demanding documents, including her identification, social security card, and the children's birth certificates. For many, this suggested a degree of planning that went beyond a spontaneous act of violence. It fueled the belief that her decision to report him was the trigger that led to her death. Friends also raised disturbing allegations that Shayla's body had been hidden inside the apartment before being moved to forest. Though unverified, these claims reinforced perception of calculated concealment. Each new detail added to the growing demand for accountability. Shayla's family expressed frustration with the slow pace of legal proceedings. Although Josemar eventually turned himself in, the extradition process remained unresolved. He sat in custody in Peru, shielded by legal barriers while her family continued to wait. Helga, despite her grief, repeated her commitment to fight until justice was secured for her daughter and grandchildren. Shayla's story became a stark reminder of the dangers women face when trapped in abusive relationships. Advocates pointed out that her immigration status, fear of deportation, and limited support all delayed her ability to seek help. The tragedy underscored a broader crisis, one in which systemic failures too often leave victims vulnerable. As her case moved forward, the questions lingered. How many more women would suffer the same fate before meaningful change arrived? For those who gathered in her name, the answer was clear. Shayla's voice must not be silenced, and her story must stand as a call for justice beyond her own life. Shayla Gutierrez's story is a reminder that behind every headline there is a family, a community, and a fight for justice that must not be forgotten. By telling these stories, we honor the victims and shine a light on the dangers many continue to face. If this documentary moved you, we invite you to become part of our growing community. Supporting this channel helps us continue uncovering cases, giving voice to victims, and raising awareness about the realities of domestic violence and femicide. Please take a moment to like this video, so more people can discover Shayla's story. Do not forget to subscribe to the channel if you want to follow more true crime documentaries told with the same care and detail. And most importantly, share this video with others. Every share extends Shayla's voice, spreads awareness, and reminds people that change begins when stories are no longer ignored. Stay with us for more powerful stories, and together, let's keep demanding truth and justice.